Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Hardick, Lead Research Analyst at Zpryme, and I am here with Heidi Kasper. She is working on virtual inspections for the Green Building Program at Austin Energy. Thank you for virtually joining me today, Heidi.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Green Building Program at Austin Energy?
Sure. So Austin Energy Green Building is one of our efficiency programs, but it's a comprehensive sustainability program. We work with new construction and major remodel in Austin to help them create more sustainable buildings. So everything from energy efficiency to water efficiency, materials, health, et cetera. And we've been around since 1991.
And what is your role in the program?
Yeah, I manage our residential team there. So we work with single family homes and all the way up to 7-story multifamily on my team. And then we have another team that works with commercial projects.
One of the biggest impacts of COVID on utilities is just really making utilities reimagine safety and how they just execute on things safely, especially when it comes to programs where you're interacting with people. So you guys started the virtual inspection within the Green Building Program. Can you tell me a little bit about that, how you got it off the ground and how it's been going?
Yeah, so it was interesting here in Austin. For a brief second in time, all construction was going to just completely shut down. And then the decision was made at the governor's level and at the federal government to make construction essential. But in terms of looking at our role, I certainly wanted to try and do whatever I could to make sure that myself and my staff were operating as safely as we could. And after going to a couple of site visits in person in March, we realized that we didn't really feel comfortable in most of those site visits. It was not easy to maintain the 6 feet. We didn't know what protocols different builders were implementing to make sure that spaces were clean or who had been there. So we said, how else can we do this? We'd already started meeting online, and I said, well, I video chat with friends, and we just started looking at the tools we had. FaceTime was the first one I used personally. We've used Skype, all kinds of just different video chat software. And it's been interesting to see the reception. There's definitely been some lessons learned. The first site visit I tried to do, his battery on his cell phone died almost immediately. So we had to kind of reconvene, re-meet on that. So definitely making sure that everyone's batteries are charged and fully ready was a quick lesson learned. It requires a different level of engagement from our customers, which a lot of our builders have really enjoyed. So in the past, they might not have even been there, or they were a very passive participant. They sort of came and let us into the building maybe, but they were watching or half paying attention to what doing, and then we would send them a list of things that needed to be corrected or adjusted after the fact. This video process requires them to actually do a lot of the work, and we're talking with them the whole time, telling them what we need to see, which piece of the thing we need to see, what we're checking. Even so far on the multifamily ones, we'll check water flows. And so making sure in advance they have some kind of water measuring device so we can check that. And so they're learning a lot more, I think, from the process of being really engaged. There are some drawbacks too. So we have noticed that in this format, we're working with them. We know what we want to see. We have the checklist of things that we're expecting and that we want to verify. And so we're doing those, but you kind of miss some of this just looking around at where you would maybe notice more things, both from a deficiency standpoint and from even an innovative thing. One of my recent jobs, I was doing a site visit in person, this before the pandemic, and happened to notice they had this gorgeous mural, and then started getting the backstory. And there was a really interesting and unique economy and equity backstory to the mural, which they hadn't even bothered to tell me about. And I said, this is a story we need to amplify. This actually has a lot to do with sustainability as well. So we're missing some things, but also gaining some things.
Do you expect, and while, we're really uncertain of when things are going to go back to normal, for lack of a better word, because I'm not quite sure anything's going to really go back to the way it was before the pandemic. But in Texas, cases are actually still increasing, and we thought we were in the clear and people were going back out, but now they're saying, no, you need to stay back home, and some businesses are cutting back down. So for the foreseeable future, you'll be doing virtual inspections, but do you expect, kind of after the pandemic is over, whenever that is, do you think you guys will continue on with virtual inspections?
We do right now. It'll probably be a mix. Like I said, there are some times we think it would be beneficial to be actually present on site. But there's so many benefits. We can do a lot more when we don't have to do all that travel time in between the job sites. Some of the homes, they can be all over town, and traffic here in Austin can be pretty bad. So we're actually saving a fair amount of time on the travel end. And like I said, there's definitely an education benefit for a lot of the home builders that are getting more of a hands-on vision as to what it is that we actually look for and what's important. And so I think because of all those benefits, we will continue. And it's interesting to see too, we're not the only ones thinking about this. I happened to notice recently that Lowe's is coming out with a video platform that's specifically targeted at construction professionals to do video site visits. So yeah, I think it's gonna be with us, and maybe even the tools will get better.
So you're hoping, are you hoping that you evolve from just using FaceTime to maybe using a platform where you can kind of have more functionality or do more things?
Yeah, I think that would be great if we could get to it. I mean, certainly FaceTime is working for us at the moment, but it excited me to see that other folks are thinking about added functionality to some of those platforms. Things like being able to bring up information from a model number, for instance, right there on the spot. So you have all of that efficiency information coming up. You can screen grab it and file it, and that saves a lot of work in terms of writing down model numbers and then going back to the office and looking up to make sure that it meets the efficiency specs. So yeah, I think there's an opportunity for even more time savings, depending on the technology where it goes. And so we'll be keeping our eyes out on what's available.
Awesome. So let's close it out with, if there's a utility out there that's looking to transition into doing virtual inspections, but they're having trouble, what advice would you have for those folks who really want to get something like this off the ground, but they're maybe hesitant or they're just not really sure where to start?
I think you have to just dive in. That's kind of what we did. And like I said, that very first one, the battery died. So I think just not getting discouraged by that. It's a battery. Okay, well, chalk that up. Lesson learned one is beforehand, making sure that everyone's clear about what's needed, making sure that you're coordinating on what platform you are going to use. Like I said, we haven't standardized on one, and in part, we're trying to leave it up, be a little bit flexible with our builders to make sure that we're using something that they're comfortable with, that they have. So I think staying flexible, communicating as a team, just to talk about what's working and what's not working. But Yeah, I think you get used to it. We got used to it really quickly. Like I said, our builders have for the most part embraced it. So yeah, it's a little bit of a change, but I think if you just dive in there and try it out, and then make notes of some of those lessons learned.
Well, thank you. I've really enjoyed, listening to you talk about this. We've been just researching over the past few months how digital tools have been helping utilities kind of overcome some of these COVID related challenges. And this is a perfect example of that, on how those devices that you actually already own, you can use them in other ways to execute on something that may have come to a brief halt because of the pandemic. So it's really interesting to see how Austin Energy is doing that.
Yeah, well, it's been really fun to make sure that we can continue serving our customers and staying safe. And I would encourage all the folks that are in construction to stay safe. Unfortunately, there's been a bunch of construction site clusters here. I had one of my job sites where an entire floor crew came down with COVID-19, and that's kind of the sadder part of the story. So whatever we can do to get creative and still work together, but keep everybody safe is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for your time today, Heidi. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you, you too.